Hey guys, it's Nicole over at Two Chicks Quilting here in Ganado, Texas, and I wanted to hop on for our tips and tricks with Two Chicks at 2 p.m. I know I'm a little late. I am so sorry. I'm gathering things and getting everything packed up for our quilt show that we have going on in Port Lavaca this week. So if you're in the area Friday and Saturday, go ahead and hop on over to Port Lavaca for our quilt show there. So today I wanted to go over ripping. We all have a Jack the Ripper that's our best friend sometimes, and I'm very grateful for him because he fixes our mistake. And I just wanted to talk just a little bit about the different rippers, the different ways of ripping, and give you a couple of different tips and tricks on ripping. So I know you're thinking this is such a silly topic, but you'll be surprised how many of beginner quilters are out there, and even advanced quilters out there that don't use the ripper properly. So today I have my Seam Fix, my ripper by the Gypsy Quilter. We also carry the Clover Ripper. And two things that you can see that they have in common is one skinny sharp point and then one blunt red point. And so most rippers, you'll see that same similarity between them. The one thing that I really do like about the seam ripper from the Gypsy Quilter is because it has this rubber on the top and the rubber on the bottom, and I like to use that to use as my eraser to gather all my threads. So just quickly, whenever we're doing our ripping, some people get on top and they go one, and they skip a couple, and then they go, and they keep going like this, and then they're peeling them and getting their tweezers, and they're picking all that thread out. That's one way to do your ripping, but I'll tell you, that's not the way I'm going to do my ripping, especially when I'm piecing a block and I'm like, I just sewed that whole row upside down, or I just sewed that row wrong. I'm going to take this and do it as quick as possible because I definitely want to get it done. So what you're going to do is you might have to take a couple of the stitches out at the very beginning just to get your ends loose, but then you want to take your ripper just like this. You want your blunt end to go towards down the fabric, and then you're just going to slide that ripper, sorry Ashley, you're just going to slide that ripper in between those stitches. So my pointy part is on top, my red part is on bottom, and I'm holding it and I'm just pushing that ripper just straight through that fabric. Now I was trying to do it at an angle because I want you to see it, and I'm going to do it at this angle too, and actually you might have to take it off and actually show them. Sorry guys, it's going to be a little bumpy just for a second. Then the same thing with this ripper. I'm just going to get my end loose. Put it just like that and just push it all the way. That's how fast it is. Now the thing with this ripper, I don't have that little eraser for the other side, but I can take my lint roller and just roll it and it'll get rid of it. But that is how easy it is to use a ripper instead of doing each individual one. Now let's talk about quilting real fast. When we have a quilt on the frame and we need to do some ripping, the first thing that we like to do is rip from the top, which you definitely can. But when we do that, we're putting pressure on our bar, we're putting pressure on our quilt, and that can cause looseness in our fabric and get it distorted. So then when we're trying to line it back up, it's not lining up properly. Another reason why that's one reason why I like to rip from the back. This ripping, you do definitely have to rip every so often. Then you get your bobbin thread and pull it, or your top thread and pull it, and it'll come unraveled. But why I like ripping from the back is one, I'm not putting pressure on the top, but two, if you look and you have a more solid piece of backing versus the top, you can see your thread better and you can see your row better on quilting, on ripping on your quilt. So that's my one tidbit about ripping on a quilt. Yes, it's a little harder because you either have to rip on the bar or on the back, or you're underneath. But depending on what you're doing, and especially if you're doing a baby quilt that uses like clothes and onesies and memory quilts or anything like that, you definitely want to rip from the back because your ripper does get caught easier in those clothes, or those threads are sunk down into them. So smarter to rip from the back. Also, on embroidery. Ashley, can you zoom in on embroidery so we can get a good look at that? Now, this is a satin finished stitch. There's different stitches, but this is a smooth satin finish. And there's also called fill stitches and different things like that in embroidery. But when we are doing embroidery and we have to rip on embroidery, how embroidery is done, the top thread is sinking down to the bottom where you're barely seeing that bobbin thread, and you're seeing that top thread more so. So it is easier if you have to rip from the back side, because you can get to the bobbin a lot easier and get underneath there. Also on that fill stitch, it's easier to get to that bobbin thread than having those tiny little stitches on top. In this case, whenever we're ripping from the embroidery on the back side, we also have a layer of stabilizer. That label of stabilizer protects whatever fabric or whatever we embroidered on from getting poked and ripped with the ripper by accident. So if you rip from the back, it's easier to grab your bobbin thread and rip that way, and there's a stabilizer there that's protecting from your fabric getting ripped. So I know that was quick and easy today, but I wanted to point those couple of things out about ripping, just in case, you know, you're the unfortunate and have to rip today. So if you have any questions, need a new ripper, or need anything, just give us a call. Bye, guys.